Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. For those of you that are new, consider subscribing down below. So what's going on here is we have a 2009 Hyundai Accent with high performance summer all season tires for the most part, Achilles ATR 1s. These do fantastic in the dry but terrible in the wet. We picked up a set of wheels and tires on Craigslist. Now you guys already know the story of these. I bought these for a good price, but the guy lied to me and said that tires are 2016. Yes, one tire is a 2016, and you can tell by the tread and the life. Pretty much the rim is brand new as well. All the other ones are older 2008 tires. They still have decent tread. They do have a nice wear pattern though. There's no camber or anything on these. So today we have to check the tire pressure. Now the last time I cleaned these, filled them up with air, I think I filled them up to around 38-40 pounds. So what I need to check on this video is make sure each wheel has a very consistent air pressure reading, because if one tire is like reading 20 pounds, one is reading 40, one's reading 30, that means there is air leaking. The tires and rims have sat in the garage for about roughly 2 weeks now. So right now you guys are going to be watching the readings, I'm watching the readings, and this is going to be the first reading. So let's take a look right over here at the newest tire. This one I believe should hold air no problem, and just like I predicted, and again GoPro you can't see the resolution, but we got about 42 pounds right here. So this is probably fantastic, just about what we put it to. Wheel number 2, and again this is the 08 wheel, which 08, it's 2019, just about to turn 2020. This is about a 10-year-old tire, 11-year-old tire, right? Am I right? Yeah, I'm right for once. But yeah, that's an old tire. Typically you want to replace tires after like 6, 7, 8 years. Okay, good news, good news. We got about 41.5, 42 on this wheel as well. That is looking fantastic so far. That means the air is not escaping. Let's check out the other wheel right now. So right now we're 50-50. Let's check what we got going on here. Wow, fantastic. 43 pounds. Excellent. So far I'm pretty satisfied. As long as they hold air, I think this purchase is valid and it's not that bad. It would have been a better purchase, like I mentioned, if the wheels and tires were what they were claiming it to be, about 2016 tires. But look at that, the last tire, 41 pounds. And this is Charlie, guys. Charlie's a new member to the family. He's a G, plenty of energy. And yeah, we're gonna introduce him to the car life right now. You wanna stay here, right? You don't wanna go inside. You wanna chill here. Yeah, you're such a good boy. Give me paw, give me paw. Charlie, paw. Paw. Okay, all right, you're still learning. Good boy. And what I like about these wheels is they're actually a 5-spoke wheel, and they are very similar to the factory wheel, which is also a 5-spoke wheel. Now, the winter set is a 15-inch rim compared to the factory's 16-inch rims. Now, you always want to go lower in size on the winter wheel and higher sidewall on the tire. This is pretty much just going to give you a more comfortable ride in the winter time. It's going to absorb a lot of the bumps and potholes and the salty roads on the road. Just make sure you guys don't get a rim that is too small so it doesn't clear your brake calipers. For this car with such small brakes, it's gonna clear for even probably a 14 or 13-inch wheel, which wouldn't be a problem. And also guys, the smaller the wheel, the less inexpensive that tire will be. A 16-inch winter tire is gonna cost you about $80 to $100 more than a 15-inch tire, so that is something to consider. So right now what we're gonna do, we're gonna take this car, lift it up in the air, install these wheels and tires, and then hopefully go for a drive, see what happens. Now one thing you need to get, guys, on any wheel tire setup is hub centric rings. And if you guys don't know what hub centric rings are, they're pretty much spacers for your rims to sit on your hubs perfectly centered, so it causes less vibrations over higher speeds, and it centers the wheel properly on the hub, so it sits flush. You can put your lug nuts back on properly. So I'll explain that as we go along. Alright guys, so this is the vehicle's hub bore. Alright guys, so this is the vehicle's hub. This is essentially this little lip you guys see right here is where your wheel sits on, and it needs to sit on this nice and flush and tight. If it doesn't, it's going to cause vibrations, and you don't got the right wheel setup if you're doing that. So for example, right over here is the factory wheel, and this hole, which is the wheel bore, is the exact same size as the vehicle's hub, and it sits perfectly flush, as you can see from the wear where it would sit on the hub. Now most aftermarket wheels will bore out this ring, this hole, to be much bigger than your standard factory hub. The reason for that is they can use it in more applications on more vehicles. So for example, right here, the previous owner was running hub Centric Rings on these wheels as well. So the previous owner was running these for a Volkswagen, which has a smaller hole than this. Remember, it needs to be a tight fit on your vehicle's hub. So this is what he was running. Most vehicles wheel bores are 73.3 millimeters or 73 millimeters here in the US. These wheels are a little bit of an oddball. This is a 63.3 millimeter outside bore. So now that we know the outside of this wheel is a 63.3, and we also know that the factory hub size is a 54.1 hub size, there's some millimeters difference there that we need to accommodate. So there's no gap. We ordered the proper hub centric rings. Now the outside diameter of this ring is a 63.3, which is going to fit perfectly on the outside of this lip here, or the inside. You see? Slightly, we're going to push it in, and it's perfectly flush sitting inside this wheel. Now this inner lip of this ring is going to be ideal and sit perfectly on the hub. That way we have no kind of vibrations, that the wheel is perfectly centered, and then all that's left to do is put your lug nuts back in to hold it in place. If you, hey, oh, he's taking my ring. Nope, 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 nope. Come on, Charlie. Come on, Charlie. You're so bad, but so good. So what I was saying is, if you don't have this ring and your wheel is not centered properly on the hub, essentially you're making the lug nuts do all the work by holding the wheel in place. But any kind of bump and motion, or if your lug nuts are not tightened properly, essentially you'll get some wiggle between the hub and the wheel itself. If this wasn't here, as you're driving, it might turn, it might wiggle a little bit, and then you're left with problems. So we picked up these. We actually had to pick these up from United Kingdom because they don't make a 63.3 bore here in the United States for some reason. And the specs are always listed on the rings themselves. They're very, very small. But right over here I can see it says 63.3 on the outside lip. And if we flip it on the inside, it says 54.1, which is exactly what we need. And this is why you need to know the specs of your vehicle. So how it's gonna work is essentially this part, and you can see right there, slips perfectly onto the hub. And you can see that right there. There's just about, right there is a nice snug fit. The wheel's gonna be centered perfectly. There's no vibrations up or down. If you get too big of a ring and there's still a gap, you didn't do the job properly. It has to be a tight fit. So let's go ahead, throw all these hub-centric rings on to these new wheels. We'll keep the old rings just in case, maybe for the future if we need them. And again, I'm just gonna compare. Look how much bigger and thicker this ring is that we need compared to this one. The one on the right is a 57.1 millimeter size, 57.1 to 63.3. This one is much more beefier because, again, the Hyundai has smaller hubs, so it's a 54.1 to 63.3. So make sure you guys get the specs right. Make sure you guys double check the bores. I didn't really check the bore of this because I just figured it's 73, but again, I learn something new every time you buy more tires or flip some wheels. So let's go ahead, put those on, and let's install them, see how they work. One thing I also want to mention is the factory wheels are 16.6.5 inches wide with a 47 millimeter offset. So what that 47 millimeter offset means is the wheels actually tuck more inside to the body, to the center of the body. They don't stick out as much. And this is where I like these aftermarket wheels. Even though they're 15 by 6.5, they're the same width, but they're just a smaller diameter. And these actually, I have a 38 millimeter offset. So what that means, it's gonna stick out further away from the vehicle, and it's gonna fill up that gap much nicer. So I always like to get that nice stance going, you know, get them wheels a little bit wider. And I don't like using wheel spacers. Not a big fan of wheel spacers. If you have the budget, go ahead and just buy the proper fitted tire. Don't get wheel spacers to accommodate for that. So I'm gonna take the old one out, pop the new one in, nice and snug. Now these are directional tires, so you gotta make sure you put them in the right direction. And usually there's arrows that point which direction they need to go. So this arrow is pointing down, that's the way the vehicle's gonna be turning. Now the question is, where should we put that new tire? Should we put the new tire that has plenty of tread left in the front of the vehicle or in the back of the vehicle? I'm kind of thinking towards the front because it's gonna have more traction, but if there's any issues because there's more tread on one of them than the other one, you'll feel that in the steering wheel. It might pull to one side more than the other side. So honestly, I'm gonna take that newer tire and toss it in the back so it gives us less problems because of the inconsistency in life left on the tire. We'll see what happens. The other problem is the factory lug nuts. Because of the bigger offset, we have less thread left on the bolts, and these might not be the ideal setup. You also got to make sure what kind of lug nut seat these wheels have. So right now I'm going to double check on the other wheels whether or not this lug nut properly sits on the seat. So let's take a look at the factory ones. This is called a ball seat. The other seat you would have is conical, which is a little bit more aggressive. They have a bigger angle. And Toyota's, Lexus's, they have a mag seat, which is yet again a little bit different. So right now I'm looking, trying to see how well that sits in there. And I honestly think it's the same kind of seat they have in both. Right there. And you can probably see right there. It looks like the same, but I do have conical ones at home as well, so I'm going to take the conical ones and take a look which ones would fit better. Alright guys, here I have two lug nuts. Again, this one is the factory ball seat, and this is the acorn seat. It's a little bit more aggressive on the angle where it sits with the wheel. And then here I have, again, the factory one, and this is the acorn one. The acorn one sits in the wheel much better. There's more room around the lug nut to fit the wrench. And actually the problem that I'm having with the factory lug nuts is this area right here is actually hitting the wheel. So we won't be using the factory ball seats, we'll be using the acorn seats as well. And one thing you can do, if you run your finger right across the lip where the lug nut sits, you can kind of feel the angle of it, where the factory ones with the ball seat are less concave, there's a less of an angle. There's a much bigger angle on the acorn or these wheels. So let's put this on with the acorn lug nuts. And because these are a little skinnier, you'll be able to thread in the lock over the stud many more times. I'm getting at least 10-15 turns, which is plenty of grip. Now if the offset was a little bit higher and the wheel would be pushed out even more, then 38, let's say 25, that might cause a problem. Then we might not be able to use this wheel and tire setup because the studs will be too short. So that way you'll need longer studs. So this is perfect. As you can see, brake caliper clears, no problems. In the back of the vehicle, as always, you guys want to test out the clearances, and there's plenty of clearance between the tire, the rim, and the shock. So we are good, boys. This is actually the same spec that the last winter tires were, so I'm glad I found the same spec. And Michelin's, guys, Michelin, these are, what are they, X Ice or something like that? Yeah, X Ice. So if you guys used these tires before in the winter, let me know your feedback on them. I'm curious if they would be better than the Blizzaks we had previously. All right, guys, you ready? This is the wheels before, and this is the wheels after. Everything went on nice and smooth so far. Obviously, these old tires have tire pressure monitoring systems right here, which connect to a module in your vehicle, which will illuminate a light if your tire pressure is low. These right here do not have tire pressure monitoring systems on them. They are just standard rubber hose vents, so that light will be illuminated during the winter time, and that is perfectly fine. The most important thing is that these winter tires are going to do their job, and the difference between a regular tire all season versus a winter tire is how soft the rubber tire is on the winter wheel. They actually flex a lot more, and they flex even in colder temperatures. And the more flex and softer that tire is, it's going to be able to dig through the snow much better. It's going to have a better contact to the road, and it's going to get you from point A to point B without a problem. Whereas these, honestly, all it takes is one trip in the snow. You're going to lock up the tires, drift somewhere, skid into another vehicle or oncoming traffic, which almost happened with this situation here. So this way everything's good, everything's safe. I paid $280 for this wheel tire combo, guys, so that is absolutely cheap. Again, I got ripped off because 3 of the tires are 2008, not 2016 like the seller advertised. But that being said, if I wanted to get 15-inch wheels brand new off eBay, they were still about $325 just for the wheels. And then if you wanted tires, you would pay an additional anywhere from $300 to $400 for brand new winter tires. So as long as I said these hold air, which so far they are holding air, we shouldn't have any problems. And as far as this tire right here, this is going to be the driver rear. This is the 2016 tire with a lot of tread left. Hopefully this won't cause an issue. Since these are just trailing tires in the rear front wheel drive dominant vehicle, I'm hoping that the extra thickness here won't affect road noise or any kind of other things we might notice. So very nice MSW, designed by OZ Racing. I always think it's kind of weird that they have the wheel spec here, 15 by 6.5. Usually it's on the inner tire. Again, make sure the rotation of the vehicle is where the tire and the wheel will be going. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. As always, hope you guys enjoyed the video, learned something new. Subscribe to the channel for more content, more information, automotives and such, and we'll see you guys on the next video. If you have not liked this video yet, please throw me a thumbs up. It helps the algorithm out and makes my videos be able to be seen to the public. So thank you again, and see you guys in the next one. Peace.
I ain't here for the money, I ain't here for the fame. Though it might be nice to own a jet plane, I'ma do it all for you. Come along and see it's true, but the world is pretty cold. You might need a sweater too. I'ma put a ride on ya. Kid from California, trying to make it in life. In school they never taught ya. Dreams